Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into one of the oldest and biggest questions in all of philosophy, one that's been fired up again by a recent major debate, the existence of God. But listen, we're not here to pick a winner or score points. We're here to really understand the argument itself, from the inside out. So, before we even get to the arguments, let's just take a step back and ask a really basic question. When we talk about something this huge, what's the actual goal? I mean, are we trying to win a fight, or are we actually trying to find the truth? When any curious mind starts down this road, you pretty much come to a fork. And this choice, it isn't just about what you think, it's about how you think. On one hand, you've got the path of what you might call tribal loyalty. This is where you use all your smarts to defend the answers your community already gave you. And the payoff? You belong, you're trusted. But then there's the other path. And it's a much harder, often lonelier road. The search for truth, no matter where it takes you. And let's be real about that second path. It's not some easy breezy philosophical choice. It's tough. It means you have to actively fight against your own built-in beliefs, the mental shortcuts you've had your whole life. And it comes with a genuine risk. If your search leads you away from your tribe's answers, you could end up on the outside looking in. And which path you choose, that directly shapes how you even talk about these big ideas. So before we can even touch a concept like the first cause, we have to get this one crucial distinction straight: the huge difference between a debate and a real dialogue. The source we're looking at brings up this really interesting term, munazara. Now, this isn't just a friendly chat. It's described as a straight-up battle of egos. The goal isn't to learn or to find truth together. Nope. The goal is just to win, to make the other person look wrong, whatever it takes. And wow, this quote from the poet Wasim Barelvi just nails the problem with that whole approach. When your discussion is just a performance, victory doesn't go to the person with the truth, it goes to the best performer. So what's the alternative? Well, it's a real dialogue. This means you gotta have honesty. You have to genuinely try to understand the absolute strongest version of the other person's point, and maybe most important of all, you need humility. You have to be willing to admit that, hey, maybe you're the one who's wrong. The goal completely flips from winning to learning. Okay, so with that in mind, this idea of a real, honest dialogue, let's finally tackle the heavyweight champion of all theological arguments, the one that's the backbone for so many of these discussions, the first cause. It's actually built on this beautifully simple three-step logic. Ready? Step 1. Every single thing we see has a cause, right? Nothing just pops into existence for no reason. Step 2. The universe itself is this massive thing, so it must have had a cause too. And then step 3, that very first cause, the one that didn't have a cause of its own, the one that got the whole cosmic ball rolling, well, that's God. And look, this idea isn't new, not by a long shot. It has this incredible history, this philosophical thread that connects some of the biggest thinkers ever across thousands of years. You see it with Aristotle and his prime mover, with Thomas Aquinas' theology, and with thinkers still making the case today. It's an idea with serious staying power. But just because an idea is old and powerful doesn't mean it's flawless. And over the centuries, some really smart people have pointed out a few, well, let's call them logical cracks that we really need to look at if we want to understand the whole picture. All right, flaw number 1. Think of it like a jurisdiction problem. All our rules about cause and effect, one thing bumping into another and making something happen, where did we learn them? We learned them from watching the physical world, from watching matter and energy do their thing. So here's the million-dollar question. How can you take a rule that you learned from inside the game of our physical universe and then apply it to something that's supposedly outside the game entirely? We have literally zero examples of something non-material causing something material to happen. The argument is basically asking us to take that leap with no evidence. Okay, next up, let's talk about infinity. This is a big one. The first cause argument basically says you can't have an endless chain of causes going back forever. And to prove it, they pull out this wild thought experiment called Hilbert's Hotel. Imagine a hotel with an infinite number of rooms and they're all full. But then, an infinite number of new guests show up, and the manager can still make room for them. It's meant to show that infinity just doesn't play by the rules of our physical world. But hold on. There's a really famous counterpoint to this, Zeno's paradox. It sounds complicated, but you actually solve it every single day. To walk across a room, you first have to walk half the distance, right? And before that, half of that distance, and so on forever. Theoretically, you have to cross an infinite number of points just to take a step. But in reality, we just walk across the room. It seems like even if infinity is a problem in theory, it doesn't stop reality in its tracks. And this right here, this brings up a huge consistency problem, doesn't it? You can't sit there and demand hard physical proof that an infinite past is impossible, and then in the very next breath, ask everyone to accept a non-material first cause that has absolutely zero physical proof. You gotta apply the same rules of evidence to everybody. And this might be the biggest leap of faith in the whole argument. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that we agree. The universe had a cause, and it was the very first one. Fine. But why on earth does that cause have to be a conscious, intelligent, personal God? I mean, the source points out that a first cause could be a whole bunch of other things, right? It could just be some impersonal law of physics we haven't discovered yet. It could be a multiverse popping out new universes all the time. Or maybe it's just an endless cycle of big bangs and big crunches, over and over. The argument itself doesn't rule any of these out. So all of this, it really brings us to the final and maybe the most important idea here, the burden of proof. How do we judge claims that are this big? And what makes an idea actually meaningful in the first place? The source gives this fantastic analogy. Imagine I walk up to you and say, hey, there's a living T-Rex somewhere in the city of Lahore. You'd probably say, wow, really? Where is it? And I'd say, oh, I can't tell you. So you ask for a picture, a footprint, anything. And I say, nope, can't give you that either. At some point, my claim just stops meaning anything, right? A claim you can't test is pretty much the same as a claim that isn't true. See, for a claim to actually mean something, for it to count as knowledge, it has to be testable. It has to leave some kind of footprint on reality, some way for us to check if it's true or false. If it doesn't have that, it's just an assertion. It's not evidence. And that really is the heart of it, isn't it? Knowledge isn't some precious idea we have to protect from being questioned. True knowledge is what's left standing after it's been questioned, after it's been tested against reality. The moment you make something sacred and say it can't be tested, it's not really knowledge anymore. It's belief. So we'll leave you with this to chew on. In our own lives, when we're faced with these huge, important questions, what do we really value more? The comfort of having a neat and tidy answer, or the courage it takes to keep asking the questions? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.